Now, I need some help here. We've got to stop at 12:30 on the dot because the guy with the spanners and the screwdrivers is coming to have a go at the air conditioning. And I'm wondering whether we get through 16, 17, 18, or whether we have a go at HBRC, but we're not going to finish that in 20 minutes, I don't think. So maybe we go to the monthly work plan looking forward, which is on page 61.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got Ian and Mike here with me, so they'll be able to, between us, we should be able to answer the bulk of the questions that may arise. So, yeah, happy to take questions.
Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, just on the resource management, to you, Ian, I'm really interested that other parties have looked at the Twyford global consent structure and are interested in it. Is that within our catchment, and who's interested?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It's a combination of people within the region and other parts of the Hiratonga catchment, in the Tukituki catchment, to deal with the emergency water provision that's been made in Plan Change 6. The global concept is one that finds favour in terms of the collective self-managing that resource. But probably more substantively, I know within the Compliance and Enforcement Special Interest Group, there's quite a bit of discussion about this concept nationally, as well as within the sort of the water team and MFE, that this approach is kind of setting a new benchmark and a new approach that others are thinking has utility in their region. So we're trying to share the love, if you want, and show them how to do it.
A follow-up question: is there anyone else does this in New Zealand that you know of?
Not to this scale. I think there are smaller collectives, but certainly not at the scale we're talking about here. Sure.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I raised a question around this last time to keep us informed on it, but I do wonder how to progress a technical knowledge around how this is going to operate in terms of unbundling of use and take and of cross-boundary issues such as the confined to the unconfined, or which stream might be affected. There are areas where it could be on one stream, could be on another. Is it possible, perhaps, I sort of feel I need to keep technically up with this because of the position, that perhaps we have a session with the Hearings Committee on going through these issues so that we are informed for future.
Yes, what we were thinking we would do with this is for the 10th of December Environment Services Committee bring a fulsome sort of background on this, because we're hoping to have the final application in this week. We've been through a number of drafts, so we're going to be in a much clearer position around understanding how we're going to deal with this stuff. For example, we're not proposing to unbundle the taken use, but we can explain to you why we're not and how we would do that, as well as bringing in the irrigators and them explaining some of the approaches that they're proposing to bring at their end of the business. And perhaps just to give you a heads up, we are separating out the confined, the semi-confined and the unconfined into two separate globals because there are different effects. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of information that we're proposing to bring back on the 10th of December to give you all of that, if that's helpful.
Councillor Bevan.
Thanks, Chair. Are you, or how far short are you of being able to give us an idea of the deep water drilling and what you're finding in the Hiratonga Plains?
Still a work in progress. So the rig relocated to Taranaki while we sort of paused at the 100-metre mark to decide what we were going to do next. Mm-hmm. They had a few hiccups over there. It took a little bit longer to come back. They started again late last week, and I don't have an update on where they are and what they've found as of yet. But that information, I guess, would probably come through on the 10th.
So the conventional well drilling rigs here won't go down that far?
No, it was a conventional rig, but to keep the rig busy, they relocated it to other work while we sort of sucked our thumb and thought about what our next steps were going to be.
Okay. I notice under consents, resource management consents, Napier City Council application for coastal protection structure. Is that on hold because we're trying to work out how this is going to fit into our overall coastal strategy, or am I reading too much into that?
No, it won't be. It won't be on hold while the strategy's developed. So the consent has been lodged and is being processed. So we'll have to carry on with processing that consent, and so it will sit outside of that strategy discussion.
Right. Okay. And I had one further question, Chair. The Ruataniwha Tranche 2, HBRC have advised they have an MOU with the Ruataniwha Water Users Group. Do we have any idea of what the MOU consists of? And I'm interested to know how many people are in that water users group compared with the total number of consent holders in the Ruataniwha Basin.
I don't know those details. Perhaps I could suggest that you could
Ask
check
HBRC.
in with HBRC in their report.
Councillor Belford.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. In that same section, there are references to a number of consent applications that have been put on hold for one reason or another. At yesterday's meeting, there was a discussion of the consent application for this water bottling project. Is there any way that we can, I mean, so it seems, I guess my question is, some consents that come in make it onto a piece of paper like this, and we see that they're sitting there, they're pending, they're doing whatever they're doing. Others we don't seem to learn about. Is there any efficient way to be made aware of all pending consents?
We do produce so out of our database we produce a weekly report on that. I can add you to the email circulation list, or anybody who's interested, and you can
So
receive
anybody
it.
who knocks on the door with a consent of any kind, would be in that report?
Yep, it's public information. It can be provided.
I would like to see it.
Sure. Okay.
On page 65, there's a reference to the Ngāti Environment Court. What's the implication of this? What's the importance of this?
This is around Plan Change 5
Yep.
you're talking about.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So this is the only two, or the point of appeal that has not been able to be resolved through mediation. So this is going to have to be settled by the Environment Court, and it's really around the proposed removal of one of the objectives from the Regional Resource Management Plan, which Ngāti Kahungunu, or Nikki, has objected to. So that will have to be determined through the court, and that what this is advising is that the Environment Court is now scheduled 2 days for a hearing for that.
Well, I mean, I gather, I guess my question is, obviously, they regard it as significant enough to be pursuing it to the Environment Court. Could we get 2 minutes on what the substance of the appeal is?
I get, perhaps Helen is here in the building. I might get her to pop down and answer that question, but we'll quickly do some other.
Later on or something, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. And my last question is on page 66. There's a comment under the economic development regarding ongoing discussions with regarding a Wairoa economic development sector opportunities. What would be the work product or outcome of that, and when might it appear?
We'll get Helen to follow up with that. That's part of her section as well. I'm sorry, I thought she was going to be here for this.
I can answer that in part. You're talking about the discussions with the Economic Development Manager, which there has been meetings with the Transformation Manager of the Wairau District Council, with Tom Skirman from this building, just seeing what they've got on the book, what we could complement, and then some of our aspirations as per our annual plan. So, but there could be a more fulsome answer than that, but I do know that those discussions have been taking place. So, Mr. Mohi.
Just for those that don't know, Te Tumu Pairo is the Māori Trustees Office new name. And Mr. Skurman,
Te Tumu.
Te Tumu Pairo.
Okay.
Māori trustee now?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, any other questions? I actually have one for Mr. Adey.
Helen's on her way, so if you ask her, she might get here.
So if I can keep talking for about 10 minutes or something? Okay.
2 minutes.
The cost-benefit analysis for individual pest species under the plan review framework is underway. Can you give us a bit of a flavour about how you go about working out a cost-benefit?
I can do my best. Yeah, I mean, where there is a clear economic benefit, that's relatively straightforward. But there are a lot of sort of environmental benefits that are assessed in dollar terms as best they can be. So I'm not sure of the details of those. I can't give you those, but probably a question for Campbell at some stage in the future, yeah.
Well, probably to a UNES meeting, but I'm just wondering, is it more like the cost, I understand the cost benefit of removing the pest, but is it the cost benefit of the actual removal of the pest? So, for example, what's the most cost efficient way to remove feral cats, as an example? Is that the level of discussion, or is it more about the economic and other social benefit of removing that pest? Sorry.
It's largely around the justification for a council involvement in a pest control activity. So why should a council be involved as opposed to an individual, as opposed to anybody else? So it's all of that part of the sort of assessment really that has to be worked through. So why do you actually include it in your regional pest plan? And you've got to have some sort of sound justification for doing that for basically involving council and that sort of stuff. If I've answered that right. While I'm on talking, if I can just refer you to page 64 in terms of the forestry, I'd hope to have Tangoio management plan here for you at the CNS committee next month. That's not going to happen. There is quite a lot of harvest planning that it needs to go in before we can actually finalise that plan and bring it to you. So hopefully that will be, we should be complete that work within the next month or two. So it'll be early in the new year that will come to you.
We had 2 questions. Ms. Codlin, welcome. You've been advised what the questions are? Okay.
First one anyway, yes. So in relation to the Narika Hanunu Incorporated appeals on change 5, as the item says, there are a large number of appeals have been resolved through mediation and through the consent order, and the 2 outstanding appeals for Narika Hanunu related to objectives 21 and 22, and the same objectives 42 and 43 in the regional plan. Now they relate to groundwater quality of the Heretaunga Plains and Ruatanapa Plains aquifer systems, and the groundwater quality of unconfined and semi-confined aquifer systems. What change 5 sought to do, and as it was proposed and as the decisions confirmed, was to delete the first objective, which related to an absolute statement of no degradation of groundwater quality in the Heretaunga and the Ruatanapa Basin aquifer systems, and to amend the other objective to make it more of an outcome based objective, that the water quality in those systems shall be maintained, so they are suitable for potable water supply, generally along the lines as the the objective was in the original plan. So that was the change that change 5 required. Ngāti Kahungunu have been quite consistent through the process that they were not happy with that and wanted to basically retain the objectives as they are.
So, in layman's terms, they want a no degradation standard? Is that what I'm hearing, or?
That's what the words say, no degradation of groundwater quality in those systems. And what we're saying is that the water quality should be related back to the purpose or the outcome that we want to achieve, and that was the water quality being suitable for public water supply, drinking water supply without treatment.
Second one is, wait,
The question was,
The second one dealt with this.
microphone.
Page 66, the item on the discussions regarding WIRO primary sector opportunities, and I just was wondering were we to expect that our chairman was going to come back with a $10 million investment proposal, or where is this discussion supposed to head, and when might we see the results of it?
Right. I probably can't give you any specific details around that without Tom Scuman being available. It's early days yet, I understand, but perhaps what the best idea is we can he's reporting to the strategic and corporate meeting next, so he might be able to answer that question then too.
Very good. Okay, Councillor Pipe.
Just one question, Mr Chairman. It's on page 66 with regards to the transport and the changes in the financial assistance rates. Maybe you can just refresh my memory on this, whether you've informed us not on it, but it talks about implications for our transport activities in the 2015-16 year, and it says there that a final decision is expected with regards to that by the end of October. Have we heard anything, and what sort of implications are we expecting?
No, nothing definite, but any change will be no greater than a 1% change in the coming year.
Implications of that? Minimal?
Minimal.
Questions? Further questions?
I might deal with my minor matter here because on page 64 it comes up.
Okay.
So with regard to the opening for the pathway in Central Hawke's Bay, and I've just had a request to, if I can provide all your email addresses. So if anybody has an objection to me forwarding their email address, then let me know. As soon as, yeah, I know, we've got them all.
Have you got a date for this, or?
It's here, 30th of November.
Okay. Oh, okay. Right.
No objection, you happy? All right.
10 a.m.
That's good. An official invitation's on its way then.
Okay, no further questions. Someone happy to move that we receive this report then? Thank you, Councillor Bevan. We have a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Graham. I'll put that motion then, if there's no discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried.